Hey everybody, I'm Lisa Campion, and this is the Miracle of Healing. What if our universe is actually a divine simulation, one imagined by a cosmic consciousness that we call God? And what if science, consciousness, and spirituality weren't the opposing forces we sometimes think they are, but pieces of the same puzzle? On today's show, I'm so honored to welcome Marsha Sims. She's the co author of The Miracle of Our Universe, a new view of consciousness, God, science, and reality. Marcia and her husband, renowned astrophysicist Dr. Bernard Haisch, offer a revolutionary hypothesis that we live in a virtual universe, sort of a simulation, one that's thought into existence by universal, intelligent, loving consciousness. And today, Marcia's going to share how science, spirit, and spirit can coexist, why maybe hell isn't actually possible, how our consciousness creates reality, and how this ties in with so many of the topics we talk about on the show: near death experiences, reincarnation, and sort of the quantum um, aspect of science, where quantum science and metaphysics are converging. So happy to have you on the show today, Marcia.
I'm absolutely delighted to be here, Lisa. I'm really looking forward to our conversation. So
Yeah, I
I would
mean,
like,
this is like, go ahead.
oh, go ahead, Lisa.
I just really want to kind of dive in. First of all, thank you for writing this book, because when I saw that you were coming on the podcast, I was so fascinated that I went and bought a copy, and then your publicist gave me a copy, and I gave that copy away, and then somebody else wanted it. So I gave my copy away, and now I've got to buy another copy. So it's just one for me. It's been one of those books that I can't keep. I get so excited about. I can't quite seem to keep it in my own hands. So just thank you both of you, you and your husband, for this beautiful book.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a wonderful journey writing this book. And in fact, my whole partnership with my husband, Bernie, we've been married for 38 years. It's been a wonderful journey for me. It's helped me fulfill my life's purpose. And what was really interesting, I was recently on a podcast that was given by David Lorimer. It's called Imaginal Inspirations. And he asks his interviewees, what is their purpose in life? And so I always was kind of puzzled about that because I do
Mm.
so many different things. I'm interdisciplinary. I do music, I do science, I do spirituality, and I realized that I am acting as a bridge. And this book is acting
Mm.
as a bridge. It's the purpose of Bernie's and mine to build a bridge between science and spirituality. So it's all
Mm.
right here in the book, The Miracle of Our Universe, the
So
new view,
fascinating.
consciousness, God, science, and reality. And I want to say that one of the most important things, which really inspired Bernie and myself, is Bernie's quote. And we always have tried to live by it. Advances are made by answering questions. Discoveries are made by questioning answers. And so we spent our lives questioning answers. I'd say I'm somewhat of a rebel that way. The answers are not always the very end of research or discussions. There's always
Right.
something deeper. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I can see how you guys are sort of rebels, in the way that you're thinking, and paradigm breakers, paradigm shifters, maybe is a better way to put it. Because I think that, you talk about in your book the sort of separation between church and state, between science and metaphysics, and how that has kept us maybe, back a little bit, and that what you're writing about is more of the convergence of those things, the convergence between mathematics, music, science, metaphysics are all, poetry. I'm going to throw poetry in there, like throw some Rumi in there too, around how these are all kind of ways that we're coming to the same truth, right?
Yes, the poetry. It's not far from the truth because Bernie and I have written over 100 songs, and Bernie was a
Oh.
fantastic lyricist. Yeah, we have some songs up on YouTube. Some of our more produced songs would be The Pirate's Gold, Hands Around the Planet, and Common Ground, and Dare My Heart. So people can
Fascinating.
hear those.
Wow, that's so amazing. Yeah, that's so beautiful. And I'm so curious about like one of the major sort of insights of your book is around this idea that we live inside of a construct. Like I saw the movie The Matrix. I don't know when it came out, like 20, 30 years ago, was it
Yeah.
now? And that idea that we're living in sort of a construct of simulation. I think we've come across. I get really sort of nervous when I think about that. It makes me a little uncomfortable. I'm like, how can this not be reality that we're in? But tell us a little bit about what that means to you and how you came up with that.
Yeah, well, our idea is somewhat like the Matrix, but I don't think that the Matrix is completely correct because they had to add a lot of drama to the story.
Yeah, they did have
And
to add some evil AI in there,
yeah,
right?
some evil AI. Yeah. So our perception is that we live in a virtual reality or a cosmic simulation that was created by a vast consciousness known as God, the creator or the source. You said that earlier, but I'm reiterating it. So we are sparks of God and we co-create reality with him or her. And God is not a he, God is not a she. God is a consciousness or awareness. But in our book, we use the word he, the pronoun he, to identify God, just because most people are used to using it, and we had to pick a pronoun to use. So we settled on the conventional one. But we've devised a self-consistent model of reality to explain life and its purpose and what it might be like in the afterlife. Our book is a simulation of the models of how God and science can coexist. And how God came about, that's a mystery. It's pretty difficult to figure out where did God come from, but in the Kabbalah text, there was an Ein Sof, the vast nothingness, or there is, and God somehow just fell out of that Ein Sof and was aware and decided that he was lonely. Because what do you do if you're just a consciousness floating around? You need to have something to do, to create, to make your time interesting. So in the Bible, there's that text about John 1:1, the Logos. So in the beginning was the Word. And the Word is the English translation of logos, but the Greek translation of logos is expression of a thought, which fits perfectly with our idea. The logos was with God, and the logos was God. God created the universe with an energy of love. And it's not just a warm, fuzzy feeling, but it's actually a powerful force. And you, as a healer, I'm sure you are aware of this because you channel lots of love to do healing. Yeah. Love enhances consciousness and is strong emotional expression, and it creates inspiration and an attraction that is binding. Should I go on, or do you have any questions about that?
Well, I think that it's I love that you're bringing up this idea of like love is the binding force in the universe. That's something as a healer and a metaphysician myself I've experienced. As a meditator, a lifelong meditator, and when I go and actually a student of the Kabbalah, when I go into that place myself, that's what I experience. Like that love is kind of the background, you know, energy here. And now like the scientists who talk about the electric nature of the universe rather than the sort of mechanical nature of the universe have discovered this other state, that's like ether is I think the name they talk about. And that ether is sort of that it's really the substance of consciousness itself, right? And that it has the vibration of love, which I think is so amazing.
So we actually term ether because Bernie's a scientist. He uses the scientific word, the 0-point field or the 0-point energy or the quantum vacuum. And that's actually much more than the ether. The concept of an ether goes back several hundred years, I think, and it's not completely wrong. But to define it correctly, the 0 point field is an electromagnetic force. And I should go on when I was talking about how the universe is created. So God got bored and he decided to create a universe. And he used the 0 point field or the 0 point energy to create the universe. And with that field, the electromagnetic energy, he started the Big Bang. So the Big Bang is where everything that there is gets compressed into a single point. So it's so powerful and so tiny that it can't maintain itself as that tiny little point, but instead it exploded. And with this explosion came all of the universe, all of the solar systems, all the planets, and all of the beings on Earth. And we as human beings are made out of star stuff. Carl Sagan said that. Plants and animals are made out of star stuff. And God wanted us co-creators of his universe so that he could develop something novel and creative. We're not just acting out like puppets in a play. We have our own free will. And the free will is what makes things interesting and how new things can evolve. So we are the eyes and ears of God, and we're sparks of God's consciousness. And this helps us in our everyday lives when we realize that in every living being that we come across. And if we can see that spark of God in them, we can have wonderful relationships.
Well,
Even if
Mother Teresa used to say that, right? She used to say that she saw the spark of God inside every human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And God evolves himself through the free will of all of his sparks of his consciousness.
So we're little aspects of God spread out into the multiverse, into the universe, having all the experiences that we have in all of our variations. And then we are God evolving itself.
Yes. That's right.
So
God is an unbounded consciousness that exists beyond space and time. And it's a enormous creative source of cosmic energy. As sentient beings, we are sparks of the bonfire of God, like I said. And we live many lives on earth and elsewhere, but we forget about them so that we can exercise free will in our current life. Although I have to say, I remember mine.
Me too.
Not many people do. Oh, you do?
Yeah, I always have my whole life. Yeah. I was sort of like, because I was born psychic. So I was just, I think, born with that knowing of my own lifetimes. And yeah, that's so interesting. I love that. I love it that somehow we're all coming back to the same truth, like whatever spiritual disciplines or practices we do, it's sort of many paths up the same mountain is kind of how I feel like we are. And Marsha, how do you think that this knowledge, this metaphysical way of seeing things, should and could impact how we live our lives?
Well, I think it could make our lives a lot more positive and maybe more compassionate. Definitely more compassionate. I shouldn't say maybe, definitely more compassionate. Because if we see the sparks of God in everyone, even if we disagree with their perspective, we can learn to respect it and honor it. And I think it's really important to honor and respect everything around us, not just trample over it, think we're the only ones that have the answer, but see the spark of God, step back. I think it would make the whole world a much more positive place.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's like we come to that sort of knowingness of the interconnectedness of all of us too. And that's something that I got a lot about from reading your book, is that we're not sort of in this isolated experience. And that's sort of a lot behind what they're learning about in quantum physics now, with the idea of entanglement and all these things that my experience and your experience are connected. And what happens to me impacts the collective, and what happens to the collective impacts me. There's something for me comforting about taking us. We can feel like lonely or lost or isolated, and sometimes in our experience of being human, and we're really not, right?
That's right. Well, we're human right now. So Bernie used, I guess he got inspired by the book called The Simulation Hypothesis by Rizwan Virk, which raises the fundamental question, as we spoke about before, about whether we are characters inside a simulated reality that is so well rendered that we can't distinguish it from physical reality. So you can kind of imagine, I don't play many video games, but I've played some, but a lot of people really spend a lot of time doing it. That
Yeah.
when you project yourself for the time being when you're playing the game into the character that's on the screen. And that character oftentimes goes around with a sword or a hammer and gets into combat with all sorts of other characters. And it's actually physically real when you're inside that video game. Someone hits you with a sword, you fall over. So that's kind of how we are. We're projecting ourselves from our oversoul, and it has many lives that spin off from it. But the life we're experiencing right now is a projection from our oversoul of certain things that we need to learn. So this world is really real to us. I mean, the desk is solid. It seems to be solid. The light
Seems to be.
switch, turn on the light. Yeah. But now when you get into quantum mechanics and quantum physics, it's quite different. And I can tell you a
Right.
little bit about that.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that.
I have to tell you about this from a layman perspective because I'm not a scientist, but Bernie spent many, many days and hours thinking about it. So the atom used to be considered a miniature solar system with electrons that were orbiting around a nucleus, and it was seemed pretty solid. This is how it was when I took science when I was in high school. But since then, it has really evolved, and now the electrons orbiting around a nucleus are actually never in one place at any specific time because they're always bouncing around. So the model of the current atom is the electrons form a cloud of probability. So this shows you that what seems solid to us, to our touch, is not really solid because it's when
Yeah.
you go down to the smaller level, things are really, there's wide spaces between the particles. And Heisenberg, who was a famous German scientist, saw atoms and elementary particles as potentialities rather than things or facts. So they're not real, they form a world of potentialities. And that brings us to the possibility of our minds interjecting ourselves, our wills, our wishes, our creative potentials into the physical reality. And that's where healing comes from, I believe, is because atoms are potentialities.
Right.
Electrons are, yeah.
And it's almost like that in that cloud of possibility, the atom doesn't really settle down until we look at it, until it takes positionality when it's being observed, when we put our intention on it, right? And a lot of times for me, like as a quantum healer, I find I go into that 0 point space, and then we're open to manifesting. We enter the quantum field of probability or the quantum field of possibility, and when we concentrate with our thoughts, things manifest. Or when we concentrate our intention on healing, we choose the probability set where that's healed, and sort of instant healing can happen. It's pretty fascinating.
It is. I think I'd like
Yeah.
to work with you on some healing projects. Great. So this is known as the measurement in quantum physics. So if you imagine, what would it be like if you cut open your armchair and you took a measurement of a few electrons inside? Those electrons would be promoted into existence by virtue of being measured, but the
Yeah.
unmeasured electrons will be left to languish in a cloud of probability. So it, like you said, it's putting your attention on it.
Yeah. So fascinating.
Yeah.
And do you feel like it this is where the exercise of our free will comes in, where we get to exercise our thoughts, our intentions inside. So if we're in this vast field of probability, potentiality,
Yeah,
what we choose becomes very important, right? Because what we choose, what we intend, what we focus on starts manifesting. This is what I learned in the Kabbalah when I say the Kabbalah. What we think about, we bring about. That the external world is a manifestation of our inner state of consciousness. So to me, that means for me, on a very personal way, I felt like a lot of responsibility about cleaning up my thinking, you know, and that
yeah,
I know if I'm experiencing something in my life that I don't like, then maybe I need to really consider, examine my thoughts and feelings about that. Things that I have the power to do that, that I have the free will, you know, to change how I think, to change how I feel, and therefore change my reality.
right. A lot of people don't realize that. It's so powerful to realize you can change your reality.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that this book and what your work is, that we're trying to open people's eyes into the possibility of having a more positive future, of bringing compassion and love into the world. So
Mhm.
being sparks of God, right?
Right.
So
I
go on.
I'd love to hear a little bit. I know you say a little bit about the um, the idea of hell, you know, like heaven and hell, and how that sort of fits into your cosmology here. And I wonder if you could just touch on that for a little bit because I thought your take on it was fascinating.
Yeah. So uh, we live many lives, even if you don't remember them. Please keep your minds open, and I'm talking to the listeners here, to the possibility that you've lived many lives. So we have times maybe when we have not acted as a spark of God, and we've collected some negative karma.
Mhm.
So if you're not going to go to hell, because in hell, the definition of it is eternal damnation. That means once you're there, you can never escape. Well, that would be completely unjust, because God's is a very just being, and he would never condemn anyone to eternal damnation.
Mm.
It just isn't right. I mean, it just doesn't fit the definition of what God is. And because we're beings of God, we're sparks of God, why would God condemn himself, a spark of himself, to eternal damnation?
Mm.
So if we collected negative karma because we did some evil or unsavory deeds, well, we're going to have to probably balance out that negative karma in some ways during our lives. But that's not going to be an eternal damnation, because God's completely just. God
Mm.
loves us.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Right. It seems like sort of a trippy human construct thought up by people to kind of punish, you know, to scare you and punish you
Scare
into,
people.
I don't know, behaving how they want you to behave. It's a bit of, but I grew up as a Unitarian Universalist, and the Universalists were believed in universal salvation, right? So that there
Mhm.
was no hell. They used to be called the no hellers because they were, you know, they believed that no one would go to hell, that we had universal salvation. So I didn't really grow up with that concept of heaven and hell, but I do think that and my version of heaven was really colored by my own experience of talking to dead people my entire life. And, you know, growing up as a psychic child and really having so many experiences with people and crossed over that the idea that we exist, we carry on beyond this lifetime was part of my known experience since as far back as I can remember.
Mhm. Yeah, it just
Mhm.
doesn't seem logical that there could be a hell.
Right.
Honestly, I do think that hell was invented by um, more narrow-minded spiritual traditions just to keep people in alignment and make sure that people would keep donating to their church,
To pay
keep
off,
their
to pay,
funding going.
buy some absolutions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We buy off
Wow.
our own absolutions by the deeds that we have to do to make up for a negative karma. So
Yeah. I know it's not. We're not really going to escape from the results of our, because I think cause and effect is one of those universal laws, and no one can really escape them.
yeah. Yeah, we
Yeah.
also can build up a lot of positive karma too. I think that's the more important way to look at it.
Yeah,
That
for sure.
anything that we do that gives off love is going to bring back love to us.
Mm, I
Yeah, I
love
would
that.
like to tell you about my awakening of the heart because this actually really is a wonderful poetic description of what it's like to be interconnected to everyone around you. So there's this wonderful teacher. Her name is Gangaji. She's in
Mm,
California and Oregon, and she holds satsangs. And my
mhm.
dear friend Russell Targ invited me and Bernie to a satsang. This is maybe when I was in my mid 40s. And I was open minded about it. I was very curious. What is a satsang? I don't know what we're going to experience here, but it sounds like it could be really fun. So we all sat around in this room around this central little platform where a chair was, where Gangaji, this is before Gangaji entered the room. So we were sitting around getting ourselves in placement so we could see what it would be like, how we would experience the satsang. So there I was sitting on the floor, my legs crossed, and in walked Gangaji. And she was this floating, beautiful, ethereal body of light as she came in. And my eyes caught her eyes just for an instant. And all of this, it was absolutely amazing. This burst of energy. It was like I had gotten hit by a nuclear bomb of love. And it
Wow.
just went right through me. And I closed my eyes and I saw spirals of purple and pink and white just going up my spine and out my crown chakra. And so there I was just vibing in a spiral of love and light. And then I opened my eyes and I looked around the room, and everyone in the room was a seeker. So we had a really high energy anyway. And I saw these webs of light that connected everyone in the room. And it was so beautiful. And I could see this interconnectedness when I was in this elevated spiritual state. And my heart was
Mm.
palpitating and throbbing, and tears of joy were just pouring down my cheeks. And I'll always remember it. But
Wow,
that's my
so
experience.
beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that. It's an incredible Kundalini awakening, right? That's what the real gurus do, is open us to that experience, that higher vibe. Amazing. Gosh, thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that. I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah.
So, if people wanted to reach out to you, get a copy of your book, how would they be in contact with you and Dr. Haisch?
Well, I think the easiest way is to go to our website. It's www.themiracleofouruniverse, all run together.com. And I see it's popping up on
Mhm.
the screen so you guys
Yeah.
can all see it. And then you can also connect with us. I have a Facebook page, The Miracle of Our Universe, and I have an
Mhm.
Instagram. That one is Marsha Sims 40. That's
Mhm.
just the
Great.
name. Yeah. But you can go and get our book on Amazon or any of the other major booksellers. And we have an audio version. Many people prefer audio over reading. I hear your dog.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Ah,
the best.
that's my son too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, right. So you can get our book at any of the major booksellers, and Amazon is a major one to go to.
Awesome. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being here today. Marsha, to talk about your incredible book. And I enjoyed it so much, and I hope that everybody runs right out and gets it because it's really, really juicy. And I just want to thank you all for tuning in today, and we will see you next time on The Miracle of Healing.